computer. Okay, cool. Look at that. Okay, so you're gonna be anonymous, but I'm gonna put in the title yogi and musician and travel.
Are you yogi?
No, I would say you're the yogi because you do yoga.
Oh, I don't do yoga. I just meditate.
Well, it's basically the same thing. But so you just okay, wait, you just did like a day meditation thing, right?
And I got the dates mixed up on that. It's next weekend, so I
Well,
didn't just do
okay,
that.
you've done stuff like that recently though, right? Like you've done what do you do when you meditate? Can you take me through that and like how long ago did you start meditating?
So are we on?
Yeah, we are on.
On air? Okay. You want to give me a? I guess I'm an anonymous, so you can't give me an introduction. But
Yeah, that was your introduction. I said you're a yogi and you meditate and you, like what more do you want? Jesus. Well, I don't know. Like that's this is my friend. I'm not allowed to say his name. He wants to be anonymous, but he said really interesting stuff. I don't know. Yeah, but like, how long have you been meditating? Is my question.
I've yeah, I've been doing like simple like mindfulness kind of meditation for like 5 years or so, just with an app called Headspace, which is like an
Yeah.
awesome place to start out. So I was doing like 10 minutes a day for a while, which was good. And then, but recently I did a 10-day course in another technique called Vipassana,
What's
which
that?
is it's just like a little more intense and in depth, I guess. But it's yeah, the course was kind of intense.
So what
And
when you started, did you notice changes right away? And like to people that don't meditate, like what would you say about meditation to them and like how it's changed you?
um yeah, I guess the biggest thing is it's like just like gives you a good way to get to know yourself, like every day, just checking in. And so especially with the 10-day course though, that was like
Yeah.
next level, like a pretty deep dive. So it was
Well,
like you
go. Sorry, go.
uh, so you get there and it's a silent course, so you're not talking to any of the other meditators, just the teacher if you need help. So yeah, it's just like totally internal, kind of working on yourself. And
You journal as well.
no, there's no journaling. You get there to the center. So I drove a couple hours to it, and it's kind of like a secluded little center. But you hand in your phone, and so like break all contact with outside world, and no journaling. So they don't like search all your stuff to find a journal, but they just encourage you to not do any writing or reading, and just like
Why
leave
is
all that
that?
behind. Just like to give the process like your total attention. And there's just so much, like even if I could journal, I wouldn't have wanted to, because there's so much going on like in my mind, and just the process that you go through, and it's really hard. So I like didn't really have any time to do it. I tried to write it all down when I got out.
Yeah, when you say going on, like you guys are doing like exercises or something, or
So it's pretty much meditating the whole day for 10 days from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pretty much. You get up at 4 a.m. and it's like between an hour and 2 hours at a time. And most of them are guided by a teacher. So it's recordings of this teacher. It's like they use the same recordings at all the centers all over the world. So it's he guides you through all that. So the first 3 days is what they call anapana, which is just focusing on your breath, and just like a dialing in on the tip of your nose, just focusing on that little area and the breath. So you do that for 10 hours a day for 3 days, like in little steps up at a time, just to get your focus dialed in and just kind of get into the flow. And then on the fourth day, it starts the Vipassana process, which is scanning your body from head to toe, like one area at a time, and just feeling whatever you feel there, and um, just like one at a time, not trying to focus as much as you can on that.
So why do you do all this? Like, what's the benefit of it?
I was kind of blurry on that when I started it too. I didn't really have
Does it help you
expectations or
focus
know a ton
more?
about it.
Like,
Say
is
again.
Does it help you focus more? Like, cause like I've done it on and off. I don't think I've ever done it as intensely as you. I've never gone to like a 10-day workshop. In 2018, that was probably the year I was meditating the most because I was dating someone who was meditating and we'd meditate like 5 minutes every morning. Well, actually, she did like 20 minutes or sometimes an hour. And, but then I got into like the headspace and then I would do like hypnotic, like YouTube videos. And then I went to this like in Winnipeg on Ellis. I went to this like Buddhist, it wasn't like a temple, but they ran Buddhist courses there. And I would do like the different types of meditation fascinated me. But I found that like I just kind of when I was doing meditation at least 5 minutes a day, and I got up to like 15 minutes a day, I found I was way less reactive for things. And I found focus was it came quicker to me. Like I had an easier time sitting down and like reading a book or like doing chapters of like an online course that I was doing. And I would say just maybe less reactive to like what's going on. And even if someone at work said something shitty to me, I just like the emotion of anger would like rise, but it was like separate from me almost. So um, and then there was one, I remember like it was like for if you have a sore part on your body, you breathe in and you focus like a white light on that area. And then you breathe out like and then you imagine black smoke. And I don't know if it was like placebo effect or something, or maybe it like pushed oxygen to that area of your body because you're thinking about it. But like it would always like I had lower back problems then, and it always really, really helped with my lower back issues. But then maybe it just relaxed me and relaxed the muscles. So I don't know what it was, but I found it did work.
Yeah, yeah, I had a lot of that too. It was a big part of the like 10 days was just getting through physical pain because I'm like sitting with my back straight, like knees and like rotating between postures because it gets uncomfortable so quick. But yeah, I'd have like huge pain in my back, and when you're in there, you just don't really have any other choice but to sit through it and just like look at it and feel it for what it is. And then yeah, I felt that too. It was like a it felt like magic almost, where the more I was content with whatever I felt, like a like huge pain on my back, it would seem to wash away. Like felt like there was like an ice pack going on it, and it just felt better. For sometimes it didn't happen, and then I was okay with that too. But a lot of the time, it did. So it felt like the more you look inward and just like be content with whatever's there, then something happens and it just changes. But if I like lost my focus, then pain would just be there, and it would be harder.
Do you find you have a
Yeah,
better
that's
focus than you did like 5 years ago before you started? Like,
yeah, definitely in day to day life. Yeah, it's like yeah, just realizing how much my mind wanders, and yeah, it feels like I'm more focused for sure. It's like when in the chorus, especially right when I got out, it was felt like I had like a super focus because in the chorus you have like no other choice but to just focus on your body, and then that kind of keeps going. And now a couple months after, it's gone down a bit, but yeah, overall it helps with focus for sure.
I find when I do a lot of cardio, like my focus and reading and stuff like that is easier. And someone said like, well, running is decently meditative. It's not like sitting on a pillow and like closing your mind off or whatever, but like running, I guess when you run, like you don't really think overly too much and someone's told me it's like a form of meditation in a way because you are really focusing on your breath and you think like you're kind of scanning your body and like you are focusing really hard on one thing and like I guess it's hard to think, especially if you're like running in traffic or something. It's hard to think about those things. Um, it's I don't know where I heard this quote, but it was like something about like the reason why people like do things like climb Mount Everest. It's like because and you just have to focus on the task at hand, and you're not thinking about the thing that your ex-girlfriend said to you or that dude at your work said. And like I find like in Winnipeg or like even in Montreal, like if I got caught in a snowstorm, I really enjoyed it because I had to really focus. Like when I was driving, I just had to focus on that and nothing else, and nothing else mattered but like the in the now. And recently I was like hanging off like a hoist tower, like that's like the elevator that construction companies rent to put on the outside of buildings to bring materials up. And like I was
Mm-hmm.
hanging off the top of that because the company I work for was adding more sections to it. And it's like you absolutely have to focus beyond belief because you're like in this harness and you have three hooks and you really want to not fall and like even like with all the safety stuff, it would still suck to fall because it would still hurt from the impact of the harness and you could dangle and swing and hit your head. But we're handling bolts like 40 stories up in the air. And like if I drop one, that could kill someone. So it's like I'm like super hyper focused and like slow at what I'm doing and like taking my time. And I like moments like that because like you're just not thinking of other things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
my
know what you mean.
my most miserable days were the days where like I had a day off and like I didn't really know what to do. And so like my default thing was I would scroll on my phone and it's like and it's like a disappointing and depressing day because it's like I wish I like blew the day playing video games instead because I could say I accomplished some levels or something while scrolling. I find I don't even remember what I looked at. Like it's kind of like it's like I don't want to say brainwashing because I sound like I have a tinfoil hat, but like it's just like nothing. It's just like a time killer. And I find now like people when they get bored, that's their default. While like in the back in the day, like even 20 years ago, people would learn an instrument or like or play a video game or like go for a run or work out or like clean around the house, help their parents or just anyone. And like I find like I don't really hear of too many like teenagers that know how to play instruments. And I just think like because when people are bored, they just do the most easiest thing, which is video games or scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm insane to
Yeah.
say these things, but like how many kids do you know that can play an instrument that are like under 18?
Yeah, at least drums. Yeah, it seems like well, I don't know a lot of kids right now, but I could see that being
I
true.
guess,
Seems like
yeah, that's
video
not really the
games.
crowd I hang out. Well, I guess, well, my roommate has her grandkids come over, but um, what were you saying about drums?
Uh I don't know, just something easy to learn.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like
that's true.
I played guitar. I wish I played drums because I feel like I always listen to the drums in the songs and whatnot. So you moved from Winnipeg to Vancouver, and are you still living in your van? Or?
No, I did the van for 15 months and then I for the first time renting a place now, which feels really good.
Um,
Uh
so like, do you just like rent a gym membership to shower and stuff? Because like I've been getting into like looking at people that like build their RVs, and my neighbor in Montreal, they were building one, and I think they're currently like he put a shower in his, and it like recycles and filtrates the water, which I thought was cool. I've been looking into a lot of that stuff. What was the hardest part for you about like living in a van?
um yeah, it was weird for me because it was like well I was traveling for 8 months, so that was and then for the last like 5 months I was working somewhere, so I wasn't in the van as much. But when I was traveling, it was just like I was working part time too, so just finding basic things like a place to be on a Zoom meeting for a couple hours. It's like somewhere quiet with power to plug in and good Wi-Fi. I needed to like go around to a couple different hotels and ask the manager if I can come there and like sit in the lobby for a couple hours on this day, and just like something simple like that I'd take for granted at home.
Yeah,
Just
well, because I was like, oh, why
finding
wouldn't you go to a library? But then I guess if you're in a library, you can't really be talking in a Zoom meeting, eh?
yeah, there's like every place had its like downfall. Like if I was in a coffee shop, it'd be really loud, and I was like hosting a Zoom meeting for students in a mentorship thing, so
Yeah.
it couldn't be like people talking. There was other places like the Wi-Fi would suck. Or if I was in my van, I wouldn't have enough power in my battery box. So like stuff like that, where I'd just be spending more time than usual, just like getting the basics.
Yeah, I guess
And
laundry
that's
is
kind of hard.
good. You just do laundry mats there, or?
Oh yeah, just laundromats.
Well, I stayed in my. I had a Nissan Pathfinder. I stayed when I went. I think it was August. I worked in Toronto because I was on the break of I had a Quebecois show that I was like key gripping on, and in my month break, instead of resting like a normal human being, I went and worked in Toronto on Star Trek, and I did 3 weeks there.
nice.
And I came back on the weekend because it was just a 6 hour drive. But I just kind of like stayed. I had an inflatable mattress that fit that was meant for like back of a CDs, and it was like plus 35 out some days. But my trick was I would park in the shade. I had like the reflective with the silver on one side and black on the other. I guess it bounces the heat away. So I found if I just
Mhm.
covered my windows with that, one, it gave me privacy, and two, it like deflected the heat. And then I had a fan that just blew air, like, and circulated it. So I think I think I wouldn't even have to cover all my windows, just the windshield. And I think that's where majority of the heat came from. And then just having a little bit of a fan. And it's like these small little things that make but I like it because it's like minimalism in a way. Like I only had exactly what I needed. And that's the thing. Like I have all my stuff and I just moved from Winnipeg, and I'm finding I have a hard time finding my own stuff because it's like buried in a storage unit, and it's all my stuff is buried on each other. And it's like, I just wish I had less stuff, but it is hard to let go of things because I want to sell stuff because it's like, oh, well, I put money into this, so I want to get money back. But then like the Facebook market thing, I don't like using. I find it takes up so much time because people ask like, I don't know why, but like even selling like a $30 skateboard, people ask me like a good 30 to 40 questions about it, and it's like, God damn it, it's skateboard, like just take it or not.
How many grinds did you do on that makes the bottom all chipped up?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was like something I wrote 3 times, and I put in the description. Like stuff like that. I would put like, and I ended up putting like, you get 5 questions and that's it. Like, and I just need this on today. And I actually, maybe it's bad, but I started just like saying yes to multiple people and just seeing who got there first, and then like, oh yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
so let's buy. Um, what's your favorite part of Vancouver though right now? Compared to Winnipeg, like what? I guess the cold and the.
Yeah, it's nice to walk out in December and it's like 5 degrees and just kind of rainy but not super cold, and you can just walk out in a light jacket. And I don't know, I just like the vibe is just the big city, like all these different cool little nooks of the city where you can go and
I was only there
check out.
for a month in Vancouver. Um, yeah, like
Where were you?
I was in North Van and then West Van, and like I was just there snowboarding. So I blew, and like a trip like that, if you plan it and like buy the ski pass is like way ahead of the time, and your plane tickets, like you save a lot of money. But I did everything. Like I blew like 5 grand in the course of like a month, just because like I just didn't care. And I just finished like working 2 years straight in cinema without breaks. So I was like, okay, I need to travel. And I guess like some people that just buy like plane tickets and go somewhere. I just seen those people travel more, and the more you travel, the better you get at these like tricks. And it's just like, I didn't want to over plan it, right? You know how like planning can be a form of procrastination where people over plan stuff and they end up just not doing anything. And my friends from Brazil were going there, so I met up with them, and one of them lived in Winnipeg, and then his brother was coming in, so like I got to meet some cool people. Um, but like I found in Vancouver, I found people walk slow, but then in Montreal, it's also a big city. Like I found people were always in a rush, and same in Toronto. But I found like I was constantly frustrated in Vancouver because I felt everyone was just walking slow, and I guess that's like the vibe there. It's more chill there. So
Huh, weird. I haven't noticed that. I haven't really been downtown with like a ton of people.
no, it was just
But
anywhere. Like I felt like at the ski hill anywhere, but maybe it was just tourists or something. I don't know. Like maybe
yeah.
I'm just an impatient asshole. But I found in Montreal, if I were to stop at a stop sign and actually stop, like fully. People would be like honking and losing their mind, or like if a light turns green and you're kind of like glancing out your side window, like people are immediately honking their horns. I felt like in Toronto and Montreal, people were in absolutely a huge rush all the time. While Vancouver was a very relaxed vibe compared to those other two big cities in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
guess I'll have to find out. Where did you ski?
I did Whistler, and that ticket was like I think that ticket was like $400 for like 5 hours of snowboarding. But
Yeah.
that was the biggest hill like in Winnipeg. Okay, so going there, like even like the worst some of the worst hills in BC are like the ones that are right around Vancouver, and people are like, oh, it sucks and this and that. And perspective, I remember people would like on the ski hills were like complaining and being like, oh, we don't have a lot of powder this year. But like whenever I felt like I was hitting a cloud. Wow, all the places to ski in Manitoba and Winnipeg, it's like I don't know. There's like a big ditch that they use, and then there's like an old garbage hill that was built up
Yeah.
a little bit by mud. And like I remember in Winnipeg, the biggest hill in Winnipeg, you're down the hill in 10 seconds, while in Whistler, it's like 45 minutes to go down, even if you're like bombing it down the hill. And like in Winnipeg, like I guess because we have so much time where we're in -30, -40, and it doesn't really snow a lot, so they have to create their own snow, and then they just like pack it with the packing machine, and it makes those like lines of ice. So when you wipe out on the ski hills in Winnipeg, you like slice your face open. And while like when you wipe out in Vancouver, you hit a cloud, like a powder cloud, and it's like landing on a mattress. So I that was a big difference there. So I haven't been snowboarding in Winnipeg since because it kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah, there's definitely better options out here. Like when I was in Manitoba, it was like a 4 hour drive to Assisipi, which is like all right, but it's pretty small. But yeah,
Yeah,
Vancouver,
it takes
there's
2 minutes to go down the whole hill, right? Which is a lot
yeah.
better than the 10 seconds. But then Vancouver, it was like, oh, there's these hills that it takes like 20 minutes to go down. And then Whistler, it's like, see, I think I started to get the appeal of like the people that work at like resorts, right? It's not like a lifestyle where you make a lot of money, or like you worked at a camp, right? And it's just like these ski resorts or snow resorts, they get like cheap, or I think they get free passes to the hill or something, and then they just like they work like 8 hours a day, and then the rest of the day they snowboard. They don't spend a lot of money because like it's included in their job, like they're bored, and like so they don't make a lot of money per year, but then like they just have a really fun lifestyle, and that's pretty attractive. Like how was it like the camp you worked at? What did you do? You were like a canoe guide or something?
Yeah, I worked at a sea kayak tour camp. So it was like a remote camp where you boat in, and there'd be groups of people coming from like all over the world, mostly for the whales. It was like so many whales there,
That's cool. What
seeing
kind of
whales every day.
what did you see?
Mostly a lot of humpbacks, just right up close. They'd be like jumping out of the water and flipping their fins, and everyone's
That's really
going crazy. And it would always be like right when we sit down for dinner, they'd always start, and then everyone jumps up and goes watches. But it was yeah, it was a similar thing where it's like the seasonal work people, a lot of the kayak guides, where they're a lot of them like do the skiing in the winter and kayak guiding in the summer. So yeah, it's like an awesome experience thing where you're doing this cool stuff, meeting a lot of people, and like out in nature the whole time. And yeah, it's just like a certain lifestyle, I guess, like having that kind of extreme switch and then a break for a couple of months on the shoulder seasons, and just doing like extreme things for your life. A lot of people, I've heard of people doing it for
that
their
sounds
whole
really
lives, but
yeah.
sometimes a lot of not.
Is that something you're looking to do or?
I think I had my fill. I just wanted to try it out, but yeah, probably not too much more.
Well, I was talking to someone not too long ago, and they were like 41, and like they don't have the house or anything like that, or no car, and all her money just goes to traveling. And like she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to like traveling in the next 2 months, and I'm going to Beijing, and I'm going to Japan, and I'm going here, and I'm going there. And she just booked her tickets, and like she's been a traveler. And she told me something like there's a program if you're Canadian. I don't know what it's like for Americans, but she said there's like 35 countries in the world you can get like a 2 year work visa for if you're under like 35 or something. It was like 30 or 35. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she said, like, yeah, you can like easily apply to get a work visa in like for Australia or the UK, and just like do seasonal work. Like, well, that kind of sounds cool. Like, I found like even just living in Quebec, which is not a different country, but like it is a, I would say it's pretty close to being. I would say like Minnesota and Manitoba have a lot in common, while like Quebec is much different than any other place in North America. And they do consider themselves, a lot of people there do consider it a different nation or country. But I feel like it did give me a different perspective of like what certain things in life can be like. And like I appreciated living somewhere where everything was in a walking distance. And I realized it's like, yeah, I actually don't like driving my car everywhere. Like I like operating heavy equipment and like driving big trucks, but it's like it is annoying to have to drive everywhere. And I'm back in Winnipeg in Transcona, which is like the most spread out area of Winnipeg. And there is a simplicity of like just driving somewhere and parking and it's easy. But like when I first got back to Winnipeg, I was out drinking somewhere and I had like 5 beers. And it was just like natural for me because it's like normally I would just take a Bixie home, which is like a bike that they have in Montreal. But not like if I was drinking, but or I would just walk, or there was like taxi cabs that were bicycles and they would take you like on the bike lane, like in a carriage, or you take the metro and it would take you like 5 minutes to get home from down. Like those metros were nuts. I guess just because they're underground, they don't have traffic, and it would take me like 5 minutes to get downtown, and I was 20 kilometers away from downtown. So I thought that was really cool. But when I was drinking at the Forks of Winnipeg, I'm like, oh fuck, I guess I have to like pay a $50 cab to get home. And I was complaining about like the public transport, and people were like, "Oh, well, there's public transport in Winnipeg." I'm like, "Well, not really. It would have taken me 2 hours to get home. I don't really consider that transport." Like, and then I would have froze my ass off waiting for the bus because like the buses have like 45 minutes in between them. So it's like, well, the metro in Montreal, it came every 2 minutes, like no matter what, or like on different hours it was like 5 minutes instead of, and you're like waiting in a heated place. So it's like to me that's what public transport should be. So that's like the, I would say Winnipeg's lacking that, to be honest. Not to poo poo on Winnipeg. I think it's simpler to live. Like a lot of people, I talked to a lot of people when I got back, and then, like I've met a lot of people, weirdly enough, people that have lived in Quebec for 4 or 5 years or lived in Vancouver for 5 years, and a lot of people always end up coming back. I think because the cost of living here is nothing, and it is easier to do stuff here.
Uh-huh.
Programs and stuff, because we have a lower population, so like I think, and the labor force here is expanding because of the Centerport project, and like there's a lot of like a lot. I think the federal government is putting a lot of money into Winnipeg because they're becoming the center hub for like transportation of goods for our airport. Like it'll be more of a cargo airport, and like from my understanding of Centerport is that anything that comes from Europe or Asia will go to Winnipeg first, and then it gets dispersed to the rest of North America. And so it's like a big route that way. And so like that's why our airport has like a lot more federal funding, and like we have all these like roads and buildings going up. And I noticed a lot of companies are moving their western headquarters from like Alberta to Manitoba. So like I feel like Winnipeg's in an uptick. Hey, we got an IKEA 10 years ago too, so that was the thing. We're a real city.
Oh yeah, I was there to get a bunch of my van stuff.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
Meals are damn cheap there.
Oh, those hot dogs. Oh no,
Oh,
that's Costco. I'm thinking of.
I find no, but yeah, I like that too, and they do that at a loss. But I find IKEA like you can have like gourmet meals for like $7. Probably not gourmet. Like I think I just, yeah,
Swedish meatballs.
yeah, yeah. What's oh, the coffee there? It's like so weirdly distinct, and it kind of tastes bad, but I really like the taste of it. Um, what's next for you? Like you're working on your music, or
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty much taking some time to work on just music and getting more into the meditating, and yeah, mostly I've been like trying to push myself to do music every day. It's kind of different. Like after being in the job, like working in the summer job, you just, it's kind of like what you were saying before. Like you know what you're going to be doing every day, so you don't really have to think about it, and it's just you go with the flow. And there's like it's kind of just easy like simplicity to that. But then I just, yeah, I feel like I want to get better at songwriting and music, but it's then I have to like make my own schedule, which is it's like, yeah, little,
yeah,
it's different to push yourself to do it.
I found in COVID, like during the first lockdowns, what I did was like during the 9 to 5 during the day, I would try and be really productive and be like going to the gym and like reading books and doing something like considered very productive. And then I would save like my video game time and my drinking time for the evenings and weekends. So I'd try and act like I had a real job and try and make a schedule for the day of like tasks that I needed to do. And like I was hustling and like, or like, well, more of a volunteer thing, but I was like, doing like clearing people's like snow and stuff as like exercise because all the gyms were closed down. And yeah, so like,
Mhm.
and where you've traveled in the States too with your van, like, so where, and what's the dealio with that, like as a Canadian when you go down there, do you have to state how long you're going to be there, and like do they hassle you when you come back, or like, how does that work? You don't need a visa to like travel for an extended period of time, do you? Or
No, you can go for 6 months, no strings attached. Pretty much, you just have to convince them that you're not going to be working and making money there. So that's the only thing that they just ask you at the border. Make sure you're not working. And I crossed the border on Christmas Eve because I was like, it was just taking a while to figure out my insurance and stuff, and then I finally got it. So I went on Christmas Eve and
so insurance,
just
like
went
for health
across.
insurance, or
Yeah, pretty much that. But yeah, you don't really need much more. You just yeah, you can go for 6 months and travel, and they didn't ask me anything when I came back, so that was pretty cool.
where
Just
did you go?
for the winter, mostly in California. I went down the west coast. It was like yeah, December, January, so it's cold. So I just got to try to get to Southern California as fast as I could. So I did checked out the redwood trees, like North California,
I feel like
and
it'd be
then
relaxing to see those things. Like, and they're all like
yeah, it's like so it's unreal. It's just like the the epitome of nature. It just feels like so powerful. It's
you just feel
huge
like a
things.
small little speck compared to them, eh?
Yeah, it's I went to the place where they filmed Star Wars, like the Ewoks on Endor,
Is that those are
the final
redwoods,
thing.
right?
Yeah, that's where they filmed it, like the huge trees.
Oh, that's so cool. Um, yeah, like how does like California compare to like BC? Because everyone says like BC is the California of Canada. So what's the difference? Is it just like the weather, or like stuff must be like I feel like the nature is different. People are different, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely nature. It's a lot more like dry, dusty in a lot of places,
Or
but
desert.
there's still the yeah. It's cool. They got the ocean and mountains and desert
Did you make, yeah, like
all in
all
one spot.
biodomes in one? Did you make it to Florida at all? Or
No, that would have been pretty far.
yeah,
It's like on the
I
other side.
I feel like I do eventually want to move to the States, but like the one thing that like bugs me is like, ooh, the health insurance, and like, ooh, how does that work? And like, just because I guess like hearing horror stories of people going bankrupt over like health issues kind of scares that. But from my understanding, people, you get like health insurance when you have a job and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think either you have a job or you can just like buy insurance. It's
Yeah. How
different there,
long?
but I'm sure you could figure it out.
How long were you in California for?
About 4 months there. Yeah, I was in Santa Barbara for a while. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like I was working part time, so it felt like I was living like a normal life, doing normal like life things, but just
A different
in a
area.
mobile, yeah, in a mobile thing. So I just find different camp spots and do hikes and stuff, and found some pretty awesome spots, like to be at the top of a mountain with like a 360 view and just like all to myself. And yeah, it was during COVID too, like Omicron, so there wasn't a lot
Yeah,
going on. Didn't meet a lot of people, so it's kind of a lot of alone time, like solitude, and just
probably
it
got
was
to
pretty cool
know
though.
yourself better. Well, no, but working in Montreal and like working in cinema, it was like for one, like a lot bigger things happen there than what happens in Winnipeg. And I think Winnipeg, like the film industry, is very growing here. Like there's studios being built, and there's rumors of another studio being built after that, and a lot more work is coming here because we have a direct flight now from LA to Manitoba. And but it was just like just seeing how everything's so different, like not just the language is different, but like everything, a lot of things that my department would do in Winnipeg, it was done way different over there. And it's like living a totally, and I was at like my flight school the other day, and someone that was with the same instructor I had 3 years ago, this student was now a pilot and an instructor. Like he had his commercial pilot's license. So I like it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, I waste time like going to Montreal because my plan was to do that out there as well. But like I don't think I read like I feel like I did accomplish stuff. I learned a lot. I learned more about cinema, even though I'm like totally switching careers to being a crane operator. But I don't regret my time because I think it like really it made a lot of things in life seem easier because I think I really struggled in Quebec. And so I got way better at problem solving and like dealing with things and like needing to speak to people in my second language and the frustrations of the language barrier, and I got a lot more patient with things. And it's like, shit, things just kind of seem to work out. And I feel like traveling does that. Like you go places and you see that other people have totally different values than you did and their life isn't messed up. So you're like, oh, like maybe some of their values are okay. Like maybe, and I think you pick more things that you like about life and traits that you want to have. Because the coolest thing about Montreal was I feel like I met a lot of different types of people. Like if I was sitting at a bar, the person sitting next to me would be like from Iraq or Russia or Ukraine or anything like that. Well, I found like more Midwest of North America, you don't get like the most random types of people like that. Or what I liked about the East Coast was that New York was 4 hours away, and so there'd be a lot of New Yorkers or there'd be people from Toronto, and it's like it's pretty easy. Just like there's more stuff surrounding by you, and like that's what I miss, I guess. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, Winnipeg's so different. It's like the closest big city is Minneapolis, 7 hours away, and there's
Which
much
is
else.
also it might be closer, isn't that? But no, it's not even like or like Edmonton is 8 hours away, but like that's still 8 hours away is kind of a lot. Yeah, like I find in the Midwest, there's like the West and East Coast, there's more stuff nearby. Like Seattle's pretty close to Vancouver, right? While in the prairies in the Midwest of America, like it's just spread out and it's like nothingness, but at the same time, I find life is just easier in the Midwest. Cost of living's way down.
Hmm. Yeah, there's like a simpleness, more simple.
Yeah, like the program I'm in, like they actually like they didn't offer it in English at all there. So like I was like, okay. And then in Ontario, they force people to do a year of school like right away. And then but in Manitoba, they just get you working right away in your apprenticeship, and then they get you to go to school bits and parts at a time. So it did feel like the easiest way, and it seemed like the less bullshit and less bureaucracy. So and I like Alberta was like that too. But I came home because it's just like I have family I'm staying with now to like get started in this program and then eventually buy a house or something. And yeah, so um how do you work on music? Like do you record it in your van or
I didn't do a ton in the van. It was a pretty tight space to do much. So I was just playing a bit. But here I have like a little studio set up, so I'll like try to push myself to like do a couple hours a day of like writing or recording. And yeah, a big part of it is just like doing it every day. And then at first I felt like I really had to push myself, and then once I get going, it just comes easier, and I'm more like wanting to do it as opposed to pushing myself. But
yeah. You did online editing work too, right? Like through Fiverr? And what was the other thing you did?
yeah, I was doing like freelance video stuff. That was when I was traveling.
Do you still do that or
No, not really.
like
Uh,
what were the pros and cons of that? And like, what would you recommend to people that are because like eventually I feel like a goal of mine is to be able to like, if I really want to live off my laptop and go anywhere. Like, cause that's what all the hustlers on Instagram brag about doing. And I'm wondering like, okay, like there must be people actually doing this, like living off their computer or laptop and just moving around. And like for people trying to get into that, like what would you recommend they do? Like, I guess you did video editing, right? And you did like clip art or No, you were good at making lyric videos, right? Is that what you did? What was the main thing you did for freelance work?
I was doing like I was actually working for a company, so they'd send me different like seminars and stuff and just do that. But so I just found that randomly, and it was all right. It was um I would like learn little random facts like these people in these seminars just talking about like general life advice. But
So people would
yeah,
pay,
there's Fiverr. Sorry.
people would pay you to take the seminar.
No, it'd be like a pre-recorded thing, and I'd like chop it up and edit it and put it together.
Oh, to make it like more consumable for people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
exactly. So they just send me the raw videos and I download them, and then I can just do it on my own time anywhere. But that's another thing with traveling was the internet.
yeah.
You might be able to get like Starlink or something now, but I would just be finding different places, and especially with video because I had to upload like multiple gigabyte videos all the time. So I'd be like trying to upload something late at night, like waiting outside of a Starbucks or something.
And it just oh, and then like the annoying thing you got to go do through the menu and you got to click OK and you got to agree and um
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely possible to travel with a laptop and do it. It's
Well, and I guess like if you were to continue, if someone were to like continue that, like you only find better gigs and you only get better at the gigs. So like I guess a lot of people equate like, oh, how well their life is going with how much money they're making. But at the same time, if like I feel if your bills are so monstrously high and like none of the money that you make can you can really spend on yourself, and it's like going to your mortgage and it's going to this and it's going to that and you're slowly building debt. I feel like it's like a honestly, like if you have a big house and like you're barely able to pay for it and you're like killing yourself at work, doing overtime all the time to like be able to just pay the bills. I feel like living in a van and working at Starbucks sounds cooler than that, I guess. But it's just like to outside people, one person seems more successful than the other.
yeah, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of different ways to look at success. Yeah, money's one of them. Like being comfortable and supporting yourself and your family and everything. But then there's like, yeah, your physical, mental health, like spiritual health, like your how your relationships are. Like, but yeah, if I look at someone who's like super rich and working all the time and super stressed and they're like really out of shape and stressed all the time, and then look at someone who's working at Starbucks in a van and but like
Just got a
really
big
level headed and
cat,
stuff.
big
There's
penis, everyone likes him. I think their life is more going a little better in some ways. Yeah, in most ways too. Like, um, so like okay, so let's say like you at the end of your life, let's say you make it to like 90, 100, like looking back on your life, what are the things that you would want to see to be able to say to yourself that you had a successful life?
oh, good question. Probably like making a life that can be like serving others and making other people like as many other people's lives better as I can, using my unique talents, kind of like realizing what those are and getting
You,
it to a point where I can offer that to
you were
as many people as I can.
you were talking about musical therapy, correct? I
Yeah,
taught
I'm thinking about that.
yeah. So what's that about? Like and
Yeah, it's a type of therapy. So you music therapists are like a therapist that uses music to like help disadvantaged people kind of thing. So it'd be like people with Alzheimer's or kids and just either like creating music with them or
so
playing music with them
what
and
would be
just
different?
getting in that.
Sorry, go ahead.
So it's just like a way to kind of get people's emotions out, getting them to open up and just using that through like creating music. Yeah.
That sounds interesting. So why like how would that be different from like normal therapy?
I guess yeah, talk therapy is more like straight to the point, like getting people to talk about something. And then there's all the art therapies, like whether it's theater or music, or it's kind of like using that other way to get those emotions out, kind of thing, and getting people to open up and be comfortable, which is it's cool because I've felt it like in myself, like creating stuff, or like you kind of can get things out of you in a different way than just literally talking about them.
Yeah. Well, I find in creation of anything, like it's like a self-esteem thing. Like even if you assemble IKEA furniture, or, you work on your car in your garage, or like actually, I really enjoy working in construction. And like when I was younger, like most of the places that I drove by, like I remember working on that. And it's like cool to see something you built, or even like I was watching a movie the other day that I worked on, and I did the dolly move on a shot, and it's like self-esteem. It's like I did something. So I feel like creating music, it's like you are creating something. And I think a lot of people, a lot of the happiness, I think we are meant to be productive. Like that religious line, like the idle hands or the devil's workshop.
Devil's Workshop.
Yeah. So I think the whole like sitting and scrolling on day is all day and watching porn, and that's how you get your satisfaction just through video games, porn and scrolling. Like it can be like it's fake. I guess video games have levels, but like the scrolling doesn't even have that, and like it's just like you're not really doing anything. So that's why it's sickening, I guess. And I think a lot of people's self-esteem comes from like how much they do in a day, and it's nice to look back in your day and you're like, I did this, this, and this, and this. And so, like, some of the people taking that musical therapy, it's like, oh, well, I did a song today, or I worked on it, or I worked on this chorus or this verse, or see, I'm throwing up music terms that I don't really know, but choruses and verses are in songs. I know that. So I feel like just that, it's like a big sense of accomplishment being able to make that, or being taught that and learning that. And I feel like the more I find when people are learning, that's when they're really happy, unless it's a really stressful course.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's like like as long as you're on the path to something and making progress, then that makes people happy, even if they're not at the final goal yet, but just being on the path to something.
Yeah,
That's
well,
makes me happy too.
like I find it's just interesting to talk. I don't know. I find that's what makes a person more interesting. It's like when they do this or they do that, or like they have this hobby. It's like I talk to some people now, and they have no hobbies because they Netflix and scrolling, and it's just like, and I guess like if you were to ask me my hobby, I would say it's my YouTube channel, and I'm learning to fly, and not to be like, oh, I'm so great, but it's like I feel like I get a lot of self-esteem from that. I think like it's like on the weekends I do flying, and it's like it's exhilarating. Like I don't feel anything quite like it. And learning stuff, doing maneuvers, and maybe I'm not good at it at first, and then I get better at this maneuver. So it's like, and it's an accomplishment. And looking at the analytics on my YouTube, and like, okay, some things are going up and some things are going down. Oh, I got to work on this, and it like keeps me busy, right? And I find the busier a person is, the less needy they are with their friends or their family. And if a person's needy, they end up having less friends anyway. So I find when you do things, you attract more people in your life.
Yeah,
Like
that's a good point.
I feel like a lot of your friends you would have met like through music, right? Like most friends in your life right now, like what do you know them through? Like work and your hobbies, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, probably half and half. Like a lot of friends, I just know them just for the sake of being friends, but a lot of them, yeah, you meet doing stuff.
Because yeah, well, it's like it's kind of I find it's rare nowadays that you just like meet someone on the street and like you're friends. It's like almost you have to have something like you met doing a hobby or through other friends, but like mostly work or um yeah. So how long does it take for you to become certified in musical therapy, or have you looked into it that much?
Yeah, there's the one I'm looking into. It's like a 4 year thing. So there's 2 years of general courses like psychology and music, and then you do the 2 years of music therapy, like trying out a job for part of it, and just doing all the specific stuff for that. So
Have you met my
thinking about it. No, what's the name?
I have a couple videos about him. Here you go, buddy. Oh, I see you didn't. Let's go look there.
Oh,
his
With
name's
big old
Oscar.
whiskers. Oscar?
Yeah, Oscarino.
Have you had him for a while?
Since 2017.
Yeah, I would have met him then.
Yeah, I think yeah, because he helped me film a couple videos here and there. Um, yeah. Jeez, I wish you didn't want to be anonymous because I talk about all these other things in your life. That,
Save that for off the air.
yeah, well, in case anyone's wondering, we did meet because was in a band and I used to be a promoter and throw shows, and they came to they were in some of my shows. But yeah, I guess if someone really wants to know, did I say your goddamn name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Where's the timestamp? Okay, I'll
No,
bleep it out.
thanks.
Around 50 minutes. So shit, no one even watches that far, anyways. So I do have to bounce soon. I have to bounce in 5 minutes because I have another person coming on.
Oh,
But
really?
so like from your travel, like how long have you been traveling away from Winnipeg? It's been 5 years, right?
15 months. Not quite five
Okay, well,
years.
okay, so clearly I don't listen when we talk in the conversation. I assume I don't know why I thought it was 5 years. Maybe that's someone else I'm talking to. Um, what's the coolest place that you've been, or what's the coolest thing you think you've learned in your travels?
Hmm. Yeah, the keeping yourself doing things is a big one, like what you were saying. Because there's a period in the van life travels where I didn't have as much and just felt like I really needed, like life was pushing me to figure out something I really wanted to do. And so then once I did that, once I like started the ball rolling on figuring that out, just felt way better. And yeah, it just like showed that that's like the universe at work kind of getting you to making you get on a path, which is kind of cool because you just know that there's something out there
Yeah,
pushing you along.
I definitely believe that the universe like reacts and maybe someone's pulling strings or it's a collective of beings that are maybe higher than us pulling us strings because like or maybe it's just our minds like wanting to line out certain events to make it feel like it's not just randomness. But like it's like I find when I got back to Winnipeg, it was like certain people like kind of really showed a negative side to them. And then I found when I felt that it was like tests to cut these people out and not be so lonely that I keep these people in my life, people that are like blatantly disrespectful or like blatantly like flaking and bailing last minute on plans that like cost money or just the time of it. And I find like the more I cut these people out, the more it's like almost the universe brings me more positive people to hang out with and more uplifting people. And I found like yeah, I just cut out people that constantly talk about negative things because it's like, all right, I don't like cut them out like fuck you, don't talk to me. It's more like, um, yeah, it's just, and I've always believed in karma. Actually, ever since that show, My Name Is Earl, about the guy who like ran around correcting his past wrongdoings. I don't know if you know that show, but I did always like I was coming out of being I was never religious, but like I went through like the atheism phase and but then I did start to realize that it's like I think like something is there and like something does guide us and it's kind of like people that say like oh the more harder I work the more lucky I get. It's like I feel like the universe does recognize who is working really hard towards what they're doing and those people do get breaks and get lucky and you know um,
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a system to it. Have you heard of the book The War of Art?
yeah, but I read it, but it's been a while. I read it in 2000, I think it was 17 or 18. But it was like, yeah, I was talking about, yeah, let's talk about that. It was talking about like angels, and it's like they can tell. I feel like you know more about it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just started reading it for my third time, and it's yeah, it goes into all about how that works with like just working. A lot of it's about working on creative stuff like creative writing or music or whatever, but it could apply to anything. And
Yeah,
it's yeah, it goes into
I've heard the
how
same
like
things of that in other books too. And like procrastination seems to be the world's biggest problem for creative people. And I think creative people overthink everything and that itself kills it. While someone like PewDiePie and Mr. Beast, they're not like they're creative, but they're not artists, you know? They're like, I'm gonna do this thing, and then they do that thing. Well, I think I was doing like a fun little video with someone who was extremely artistic, and it like wasn't fun because they were a control freak and they overthought everything. And it's like, who the fuck cares? Like everything's a happy mistake. Like it's just, and no one noticed. Like I found when I edited videos, I would care so much about stuff that doesn't matter. like I would scan over frames and make things like so perfect, but it was just a waste of time almost. Like I think what I remember about that book, the best quote was is if you get an idea, that was like the universe giving it to you, like giving you a gift. And if you don't produce something around that idea, you just wasted a gift from someone. That's the one thing I remember about that book. That's from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a cool part where, yeah, it's like the universe whispers these ideas into a bunch of people, and then, but only the people that go for them, those are the ones that actually make something. But a lot of the time it's just on deaf ears kind of thing.
Well, so okay, even this like podcast thing, it's a nice little hobby thing to do. I like talking with people, and some conversations I have with people are really great, some are mediocre, but I think it's just the process of going and going and going. And I know that the more following I get, the easier it'll be to get guests. But like, there's so many people that are like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm down, yeah, I'm down. Oh yeah, we should do something like every week, and I'll come on every week and we'll chat. But when it comes down to it, it's like fucking excuses, excuses, and oh yeah, let's tomorrow, 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 and then it just never comes. And it's like it's can be a very simple thing if you don't overthink it. And I wouldn't say it's like, oh, it's overly successful. Like my podcasts get like around like 40 to 100 views, right? But it's like I think the more I have out there, the more findable it will be. And then like actually I need to also I just have it on YouTube right now, so I need to take the time to put it on like there's a program you can get where you put it on all I'm writing that down. All like you can put it on Spotify and like Apple Music by just signing up to one. And
Mm-hmm.
what else from that book do you enjoy?
Yeah, like sitting down to do it every day is. I just read the intro to it where he talks about just the biggest thing for people is resistance to, which is like the enemy that's kind of that you're always pushing against towards doing something. There's always that resistance in you,
Yeah.
and that's what you need to overcome. And the biggest thing is just pushing through it and like working on stuff every day and not caring what the outcome is for a lot of it,
Yeah.
like with
Or
what
it
you're
was
saying.
funny because there was like three books in a row that were all by very different authors. Like one was Mark Manson, one was that, and then one was by like a religious leader, and it was called Hard Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And it was more about that one was more about like pushing yourself through hard times, but they had a chapter on like procrastination because I think that does make your life shittier if you do procrastinate a lot. And you like I remember I don't even like some of they were like giving sample stories of the same stories, but and like some of the cool lines I liked was like they were talking about this author who wrote 70 books in the span of like 10 years, and they were like, well, how do you do it? And like do you write when you feel creative, or do you write at a certain schedule? And he said, I write when I feel creative, and that is 9 a.m. at every morning. I sit down no matter what. And then another author said, no, I just write 300 crappy words a day. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. And like sometimes I'll have these like really good editing sessions where I do like really, really good work. And then it'll almost prevent me from doing editing again because I'm like, oh, it might not be as good as another time, that last time. And I've heard musicians say that, like they kind of almost don't practice because it's like, oh, it might not be as good that writing session or this practice session because it's not. And it's kind of like the gym, right? Like if you plan on doing this huge, big workout, then you might not go all the time. You might only go every odd time. But if you just go and you're like, okay, I'll do like 20 minutes of cardio and I'll do like two things, you end up doing way more. So the thing I got from all these books, it was like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, The War of Art, and Hard Times. It was that motivation doesn't bring action, action brings motivation. That's how I'd sum up those three books is if you sit down and you just start doing something, then the motivation comes and you get flow and then you get more, is how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know, you do work out, you do keep physically fit, and like if you just you start doing like 10 push-ups and you're doing this, or you're like people that I know that do software, they'll tell themselves, oh, I'll like adjust the banner, and then they adjust the banner and then they do 10 more things. And sometimes with my pilot online school, I'll be like, oh, I'll just do 10 minutes, and then I end up doing an hour. But if I tell myself I need to do an hour today, I won't do anything. And it's weird how the mind works. It's like you have to trick yourself, or I'll tell myself, okay, just cut like a couple clips up and place them. And then because if I tell myself edit this whole video, if I write that in my phone as a to do, like edit the whole video, I'll never do it. But if I'm like do 10 minutes of editing or do this task and this task, then I'll end up like cutting up the whole thing and in like one go. It's just weird how that happens. But
Yeah,
I
I can totally relate.
but I still it's funny because I think you procrastinate the projects that you like the most. There's an interview I have with Stitches that I've held on for 5 years. I have everything I need for it, and it's just like I'm just putting it off because I feel like I'm not gonna be, I'm not in the right mind. I'm not in the, but like I put out a video of like reacting to an episode of Cops, like of a guy who dressed up as a clown and he was busting prostitutes and like I didn't care about that video, so I just like edited it in like 10 minutes and put it out. And like a lot of times I felt videos wouldn't be good enough, or I'm like, I can't, have to, or like when I did comedy stuff on YouTube, it was like, I have to, I have to save this joke for a better video. But it's like in a lot of my stuff, I like repeat the same points and same jokes and same content, and like no one calls me out on it. For one, because I'm stealing my own stuff and reusing my own content. But I find that anyone that watches me, they don't watch every single thing I do anyways. So I think people are afraid of repeating their own content, but it doesn't matter. Like Joe Rogan says the same. I notice he says the same lines about certain things over and over again, and it doesn't mean it's bad or that he's unoriginal. It's just like, it's like it's a point, and he's not afraid of reusing. Because if you're like, I have to use it at the perfect time, then you'll never use it. It's like playing video games and like, those special items that are really rare, and you're like, I'll save it for a good time, and then you never use it the whole game. So it's like, could have used it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Then for your for your comedy thing, little clip you just sent me. I think that's something you could be awesome at,
I
but it might take a little resistance to come over.
I do like doing stand up, but here's what I'll say about like I don't like the open mics, and I like just doing stuff on the computer because I can come home, do it. Like I had that thought, like, okay, so what my joke was is, like if you like I find I find stuff like prostitution really morally wrong. I still think it should be legalized, but like I just don't like how a lot of society just plunges into OnlyFans. And admittedly, there was people who I knew from high school, middle school. They started an OnlyFans, and I did subscribe because I was like, I'm really really curious. My God. But and then the joke I made was that like for anyone who's really into like being a fan on OnlyFans, it's like, well, if you go look at the mirror, you'll see a pussy for free. And I had that thought, and I just put that out there. I didn't like, I have to like get a video where it's like nice lighting and it's like it has to be the right angle and I have to look perfect. No, I like looked like shit and I did it in my car, and it's just like, okay, so I think that video has gotten like 200 views, and the short's fun, that gives me like 5 cents, whatever. But I could remake that video, make it better, but it's just like I just like making and putting out content because I think right now it's about quantity over quality anyways. But and I like, okay, so for example, I'm doing a video every day reading a daily Stoic quote, and like I could procrastinate. I could be like, and like no matter what, I put out a video, no matter what my background looks like, no matter how tired I am, and that forces me to be better. And I am getting better at reading and at reading out loud, and like even if the background looks like shit, then it just encourages me to make my background look better. And it's just like whatever. Like even if I have like dirt on my face, it's like whatever. Because if you start doing things because like, it's not perfect, then you'll find a million excuses not to. And that is a part of that resistance that the War of Art talks about, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just showing up and doing it and working the muscle no matter what. That's a good point.
What else does he say in that book? I really did like that book at the time of reading it, but I don't remember a lot. I remember there's a resistance and the angels that are helping you, and the universe whispering things to you. I remember that.
Yeah, I'm just starting it too, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I just remember really loving it like 2 years ago, and I'm gonna read it again.
I read Creativity Inc. too, and I think there was a lot of that was the guy who founded Pixar. And okay, and so like with editing, the funny thing is though, you can hit Control Z and you can go back. So I think like, and with any type of problem solving, like unpacking, sometimes you don't know where to put stuff in your new apartment, but like just the act of putting stuff places, then you realize, oh no, it might be better here and there. Action brings motivation, and Like the big line I got from Creativity Inc. was like, you, if you're not sure of what to do, just make a decision, do it right away, because when you do it right away, it gives you more time to change it down the road instead of sitting there in indecision. And
Mm.
I think sitting in indecision is like the worst thing and the most unproductive thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the thing with a lot of media on the computer. You can always go back. You can, like, it's not like painting where if you mess up, it's like, oh my God. So that's why I think painting is quite an art. But I find with video editing, you can always hit back, you know, or you can like save one version and do a different version. And that's the thing, like I was talking about, oh, I got afraid of like holding on to one joke and like making sure it was perfect. It's like people, even artists themselves, they'll put out a song now and then they'll put out three different versions of it. Like Oliver Tree we'll put out like the slow down reverb version, and that's like a thing on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Is like a famous song will happen, and then all these remixes of it will happen, and now artists are like catching on to that and remixing their stuff themselves so that they get, I guess, more of the money from it. But um, like I don't know, I find in a lot of songs like it's like a lot of clips and remixes and I don't know. I maybe it's bad. Like I kind of hate TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but it's also kind of fun because like you care less about the content you're putting out, so you're putting out more content. And I just the only danger of that for me is like when people just sit and scroll and watch that all day.
Yeah, I think it's awesome for people creating because you can just do it so easily. Do it like you just made a video today.
Yeah,
Just don't have to think about it too much. You can do as much as you want. But yeah.
but on that note, this was a good long chat. Probably not the most profound chat me and you have ever had. We've for some reason when we talk off air we have more profound chats, but it was a good start.
Yeah.
Raise my anonymous friend. Yeah, thanks for being on here, and yeah, I'll see you again. Hopefully, yeah, you come back.
Yeah, it's been good.
How
Thanks
was
for
it? How was
having
my
me.
podcast experience for you? I don't think we had any awkward silences.
No, it was good filling in every gap, and you have a lot to talk about on every subject. So I think you're pretty natural at it.
Opinionated asshole. Anyways, ciao for now. Yeah, and then I'll upload it and I'll yeah, make sure you're anonymous. Okay, but yeah, ciao for now, my anonymous friend. Goodbye.
Okay.
Hey.
Bye.